The Chief Constable in his annual report is scathing about the criminal justice system as it exists and raises concerns about border controls. These are big political issues, and I'm with the Home Affairs Minister, Juan Watterson. The Chief Constable raises many areas of concern in his report. What are your areas of concern? What do you see as the big issues here?
Well, there are a number of negatives. Obviously, the downside is this year there is an increase in crime. There is an increasingly complicated situation that policing is having to deal with on the island. But there's some notable successes as well. Obviously, we're seeing still remaining high detection rates, and we still are the safest place to live in the British Isles. And these are important factors when that comes to quality of life, highest satisfaction rating in the policing anywhere as well. So in terms of the public feeling about the police, I think they're becoming more confident in them. I think they are becoming, that they remain happy about the service that they're getting, and they still live in a very safe place.
Do you think that's true about public feeling? Because that spate of burglaries did worry people. There was a lot of fear around that actually hasn't necessarily been resolved. I
think it did. It really did have an impact on the public consciousness. We've gone from a situation where 20 years ago we were having hundreds of burglaries a year. In the year that we're reporting on here, we had fewer than 200. And yet that's still seen as a big deal because they're all connected. So that did have a disproportionate impact. But I think it goes to show how expectations have changed on the Isle of Man and how we've come to expect it being a safe place. Crime rates here are a third of what they were 15 years ago, and yet we almost expect the Isle of Man to be crime-free. And we've seen the numbers coming down and down and down. And so it's inevitable at some point that they would level off, and that's exactly what they've done.
Now, when the Chief Constable talks about crime and the way his officers are deployed, obviously he has concerns there that they're not doing what we would see as traditional or genuine policing. They're dealing with mental health issues, all that sort of thing. And that ties in with what he's described as just not joined up thinking, really. The various agencies aren't working together, really.
Well, I think what we've seen is people would expect that as crime has now dropped to a third of what it was, that there's an awful lot of police time available. And that's just not the case. It's become a far more complicated job. It's not just about catching criminals and locking them up and prosecuting them. They're dealing with a far wider range of other social issues where they're the ones that get called because they're the ones that are available, and especially around mental health, around vulnerable people, missing people. These are important issues, and they need to be dealt with as well. And
but they're not always available, are they? I mean, they had to close the roads policing unit to make officers available to deal with these other issues.
And it's important that neighbourhood policing, which is at the core of the Manx policing model, is maintained. So that was the reason that the roads policing unit was temporarily suspended, was to support neighbourhood policing, to support the good work that's being done around the Isle of Man, in town and outside of town, to make sure that people have that feeling of safety, to make sure that every crime in the Isle of Man is investigated. And I think we're one of the very few number of police forces to promise to investigate every crime.
Okay, in terms of border controls, is that something that your department's looking at?
It is. It's something that does give us concern. I think people have got used to over many, many years the freedom of travel between the Isle of Man and the UK, Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, but it's that free movement of people, that free movement of goods that has real potential for criminality. So it's something that we will be going out to test the water on with the public, to say that actually there will be real improvements in terms of reducing the amount of drugs coming into the Isle of Man, reducing the amount of crime that comes through the island by virtue of people just simply carrying identification. Sometimes it can be as simple as that. And the Chief Constable's talked about the standard way of people coming to the Isle of Man, turning up at the last minute, paying cash for a ticket, using a false name. Some of those issues go away. It'll become a lot harder to do when you require ID at the ports.
Now, his report, he said it is quite hard-hitting, and there's no spin in there. He's just presenting it the way it is. How do you feel about that? How do you perceive that?
I'm absolutely delighted that he's doing that. It's important that he has the opportunity to tell it as it is. I think it's important that I tell it as it is as well. It's important that we work together and we deal with the issues that are presented. So whilst that represents a picture in time, the annual report covering the year, then that feeds into the strategic planning cycle, and that's something that the Chief Constable works with me on. I work with my colleagues on the Social Policy and Children's Committee on, and so we try and bring about a continuous cycle of improvement.